got quite a short amount of time, but I'm only going to speak for about 10 minutes maximum. So we've probably then got about 10 minutes for questions. There is a microphone that's going around, so you too can freak out with the microphone. So if you have got a question, wait for somebody to hand you the microphone so everybody can hear the question. I believe my colleague Mary's been giving out brochures and handouts. If she's not been able to get round to you, I have them all here at the front, or they're all on stand 75, which I believe is downstairs. So one way or the other, you'll get a brochure, you'll get some handouts. So, if I just first of all introduce who I am the person that you were expecting. I'm Judith Denyer, and I'm an Operations Director for Prospects, which is a large educational services company, which also focuses on sort of careers guidance, careers activities. What I'm hoping to cover in my presentation is, first of all, run through the new statutory duties that have been placed upon schools, but also touch on those that are still left within the local authority in terms of careers advice and guidance. I'm then going to look at the Prospects response to the statutory duties placed upon schools, and that is called Careers Advice Plus, and that is the brochure that you've got in front of you. First of all, for the first bit of the presentation, I want to look very much at the statutory duties that schools have got. It's pretty much encapsulated in that quotation which comes directly from the Act. So I'll just let you read that. You can't see? No problem. It says all registered pupils are to have independent careers guidance during the relevant phase of their education, particularly for disadvantaged students and those with special needs. Okay? As with all of these things, the devil is very much in the detail, so I just want to tease out some of the key implications of that quote. First of all, that whole term independent, and that basically means that it cannot be delivered by a teacher or someone employed by the school. It needs to be delivered by someone external to the school, to be deemed to be independent of the school, and somebody who is level 6 qualified in careers advice and guidance. That's basically somebody who's got a diploma, postgraduate diploma in careers advice and guidance. It must be accessible to all students in years 9 to 11. So when they're referring to relevant phase of education, they're talking about Key Stage 4. Though there has been ongoing discussion about, will that duty come down to Key Stage 3 and could it be raised to post 16? So at the moment it's Key Stage 4, but don't be surprised if it goes up and comes down as well as Key Stage 4. The statutory duty extends to all schools. So in some of the areas where I'm working as an ops director, people say, we're an academy, do we have to do it? Yes, academies do. It's in the funding agreement of an academy that they also have to secure impartial, independent careers advice and guidance for their students at a relevant phase. And there's a key emphasis on that term impartiality. It's got to promote the best interests of the young person, and it has to cover all options. So if you are in a school with a sixth form or whatever, or where you feel there is tension in terms of advising on all options, to be deemed impartial, the young person has to be aware of all of the options available to them so they can make an informed choice and decision about their futures. Otherwise it would not be deemed to be impartial. A couple of other points around the statutory duty on schools. There is now a new Ofsted inspector in place across England who will have the responsibility to carry out thematic inspections of careers advice and guidance. So they could go into a particular area of the country or a region, go to a number of schools and basically say, what are these schools doing to meet their statutory obligations? Then would report on a region or an area or a number of schools to say this is what they're doing in different areas, this is working, this isn't working, they're not meeting their obligations, they are meeting their obligations. So there is a little bit of teeth in this, and that is all around sort of Ofsted working to ensure that schools are compliant with the new legislation. So they would want to see that there is evidence that the provision you have secured is from an external source, that that external person is level 6 qualified, that they're not employed by the school, and there are schools that do employ their careers advisors, and that's fine, but there would be an expectation that you also have advice from an external source as well. They're not saying you have to do 400 days or 2 days, they're not going to tell you that, but they would expect to see you've topped up the days of the person that you employ with somebody who is external to the school. And the other thing that you would be responsible for as a school is the destinations of your Year 11 leavers at 16, the numbers that become NEET, what they go on to do, and you'll be following up those young people up until the age of 18. So that's the destination measure. And I know there's quite a lot of discussion around this element of the bill, with schools particularly saying that's unrealistic. To enable us to do that, that is really, really unrealistic. But at the moment it's still in there, something they're calling the destination measures. And they're also talking about that being reported as part of the league tables as well. So it's not enough to educate the child, you're also responsible for the progression of that child into further learning, etc., etc. But that is a bit of a controversial one at the moment. So as I say, whilst the Education Act 2011 does pass on significant statutory responsibilities for securing impartial careers education and guidance onto the school, they do still retain some level of statutory responsibility for making sure that young people are enabled and assisted to participate in educational training. Now they're responsible for their residents, so it's very, very important that all of their residents have got an offer of learning at 16, 17, 18 and beyond, because the local authority is responsible for the raised participation age. So that's all about young people having to stay in school, or in learning rather, until they're 17. So this year's Year 10 will not be allowed to leave learning at 16, they will have to remain in learning until they're 17. This year's Year 9 will have to remain in learning until they're 18. So the local authority has the statutory responsibility to make sure that for their residents, they are meeting their raised participation requirements as a local authority. They also will have a statutory responsibility for Section 139A assessments, so the special needs assessments, so the 139 assessments of young people who are statemented in terms of their plans for when they leave school or sixth form or go into higher education or go into training, etc., etc. They will still retain that responsibility. As a school, you are not expected to be securing that from an external provider. That should still be part of a local authority's responsibilities to you as a school. But technically it is for their residents. So that in itself comes with a level of confusion. And how a local authority chooses to meet its statutory obligations varies hugely. And how they choose to resource it equally varies hugely. So in areas where I cover, some areas will put considerable amounts of money into NEET prevention, they'll put a lot of money into the tracking of young people, a lot of money into face-to-face work with NEET young people, and the special needs Section 139 assessments. Then enabling authority will do very, very little and put very little money into it. So it does depend, if as a school, which borough you are working in or which local authority area you are working in. Because some are doing the bare minimum and some are doing a lot more. So it does depend. So that's pretty much the landscape in terms of the politics behind all of this and what schools have to procure and what local authorities have to put in place. Some local authorities have taken services in-house for targeted support and others will go out to tender. Some schools are already procuring services for September, others are waiting to see what their budgets are like. Some are in areas where their local authority have extended up until September. Other schools are in areas where the plug was pulled 12, 18 months ago. So we've probably got all sorts of people in this room that have got different circumstances. But regardless of that, prospects, like all companies such as ourselves, have put together some sort of response really, so that a school could purchase something direct to meet their needs and to meet their requirements under Ofsted and their statutory obligations. And for prospects, that's called Careers Advice Plus. I just wanted to say just a few things about Prospects, the organisation, before I go into the detail of what Careers Advice Plus is. Excuse me. As a company, we are the largest provider of information, advice and guidance in the UK. We've got over 20 connections contracts, so if we think about when we were doing connections or IAG contracts for young people, we have contracts in London, Leeds, the Midlands, all over the place. So we do a lot with young people. We have a lot of ESF funded projects, etc., etc. We also have an increasing number of direct contracts with schools, because as I say, some schools have had no service from their local authority for quite a while. So some schools have come to us direct over the last 12 months and said, we have to have something in place for these young people. You know, they're queuing around the block to see the careers teacher or their tutor, and we just don't know the answers. So a number of schools have come to us already to buy Careers Advice Plus to support their students, particularly in Surrey, London, Kent, Essex, Yorkshire. We also do a lot of advice and guidance for adults, which is under the Next Step brand, again with the largest supplier of adult guidance. We do offender learning across London, and we deliver offset inspections for early years. So we're sort of talking about being offset compliant from our perspective, but equally we run offset inspections, but it's early years education, not secondary. We also are the largest provider of events, so Prospectors organise events like this. I don't know if any of you came to the World Skills event, that was organised by Prospect. So we're quite diverse as an organisation. We are a mutual organisation, so we're not for distributable profit, and our business is education and support services around that. We're also very much synonymous with service excellence, so in the last 5 years, in every area that we've worked, our NEET has reduced year on year. We have high satisfaction rates for the schools that we work with. Our staff are highly qualified, highly skilled. We've got investors in people, ISO, matrix, all the things that you would expect. Because one of the things that you'd have to do if you were looking to procure an external provider to come in and deliver careers advice and guidance for you, you would need to make sure that that external provider had the matrix qualification. So you will find that Prospects and other companies such as ourselves would have matrix. And that's a key sort of quality mark about careers advice and guidance. We also offer sort of excellent value for money. Our prices do compare with our rivals. It's a bit of a mixed market, but we benchmark our prices and they're pretty much what our competitors will be asking schools to pay. We do have highly motivated staff, highly knowledgeable staff, and highly trained. And we do deliver services innovatively, and I think that all adds to that concept of value for money. And we're also very good at bringing in additional funding. So, you know, in any given area, in one borough, for example, we'll probably bring in about £500,000 worth of additional income over a 2-3 year period to support the learners in that area. So we're good at bringing in other income to support the core work that we do. So our offer to schools is this concept of Careers Advice Plus, and it is essentially a menu of services that is over 5 broad headings. So the 5 headings are careers guidance, which is the bit you'd expect really, and it's, to be honest, it's the popular bit. The schools are coming to us and saying, I need a careers advisor, I need 20 days, how much that's going to cost. So one element of Careers Advice Plus is careers guidance. The second element is employability. The third element is targeted support, which is particularly popular with those schools that get quite a lot of pupil premium funding. The fourth element is curriculum development, and the fifth element is data services. So picking up on my point around the destination measures, you being responsible for finding out what your learners are doing now, we also have a package of services around that. Careers Advice Plus has been designed in consultation with schools and with advisors. It's not been done in isolation in a darkened room. An individual school can buy it if they wish to, and to date we've got 100 schools across the UK that have bought Careers Advice Plus as an individual institution. But we have a growing number of schools that buy as clusters or whole borough consortiums, because that way they can usually get a discounted price. because we can usually offer better deals if there's more schools or more days that you buy. So a number of schools do cluster up. So we're doing quite a lot of negotiation with a couple of London boroughs at the moment where all schools want to come on board. Careers Advice Plus is very much personalised because we do know that no one institution is the same as the other. We are an experienced provider. We've worked with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of schools over the years, so we know that the package of support that one school will want will be very, very different because the learners are very, very different. And as you would expect, Careers Advice Plus would get you through any Ofsted inspection should you be unfortunate enough to have one. The advisors would be level 6. Obviously we're external to the school. They'd all be CRB checked, they'd all be qualified, they'd all be trained, etc., etc. I'm just going to run through each of the 5 elements. I touched on careers guidance, and I suppose if you're used to having a careers advisor to come into your school, the first 5 elements are what you would expect your careers advisor to do: one-to-one work, face-to-face work, group work, assemblies, possibly do a tutor briefing, etc., etc. That's bread and butter careers advice. You wouldn't expect a careers advisor to not be able to deliver those sorts of pieces of work. However, if you wanted to lever in additional activities and perhaps things that are slightly more innovative, again, because that's what you need to engage some of the learners that you have, we have got things such as Prospects in Play, which is our careers education, what's the word I'm looking for? Theatre and education programme. We're very fortunate that we've got 3 or 4 level 6 qualified careers advisors who are also drama trained and drama qualified. So they've been able to fuse those skills, and then they go out and they do assemblies, they do whole year groups, or they do small groups about transition, about choice. They use drama, they use role play, etc., etc. Goes down really, really, really well with certain groups and certain young people. Because it gets messages across in an inviting and engaging way, and it's fun. So you may think, actually, that's an interesting way. I don't have a lot of money to spend in my budget, but I wouldn't mind if somebody could come in and do that for the whole year 11 with some workshops after. That may be something I'd be interested in. You may also be interested in having a school Facebook page, which the careers advisor would then be able to deal with inquiries from the school related to careers. So we are able to set up a specific school Facebook page with all of the safeguarding practices that you would expect. Or you may say, we've got something within our VLE, could it be part of our school VLE, which of course it could be. But we do find that when we use social guidance in our work, we do get lots of young people logging on after school to speak to their advisor who they couldn't see in school that day. So it seems to work really, really well. So we do offer that as part of the careers guidance element of Careers Advice Plus. The second element is employability, and that really is about bringing careers learning to life, really, and employability to life. We offer industry days, particularly if you are a school from London or the South East. We offer industry days in the City of London, where young people go to speak to employers in finance, law, retail, fashion, medicine. We also offer group visits to look at occupations within the Olympic Park. So we've got groups of young people currently from across our contract areas going off to the Olympic Park, spending time in Westfield, spending time on the actual Olympic Park, talking to people who are working there about jobs and opportunities. It really does, we find, raise lots and lots of aspirations amongst young people, as do the very bespoke Prospects in Play employability work, so where they perhaps come in and do mock interviews with young people or whatever. It's a fun way of learning, but they learn a lot about the world of work and expectations employers have. A number of schools are very interested in hiring our digital careers pod, which basically is an inflatable structure full of iPad technology, plasma TV screens. You have advisors coming in, doing group sessions with those young people in the pod, and young people are absolutely engaged by it. We've taken it to pupil referral units and we've taken it to grammar schools, and equally engaged, because it's the technology that engages them. So again, if you're looking at buying one-off activities to support some of the stuff that you're doing within the school, the careers pod is something that can be quite fun and exciting. And a lot of schools currently are saying, well, could you do a whole day activity for my 1-year 6th, or could you do something for the young people who are not thinking of going to university, etc., etc. So we can put together bespoke packages. We can organise careers fairs. We can do all sorts of things. So we do different things in different areas to meet different needs. So that's under employability. Under targeted support, as I mentioned earlier, some schools that are in receipt of pupil premium money are saying, well, we know we've got a lot of young people who we are really concerned are not going to make an effective transition. We're now going to be responsible for the outcomes of these young people, the destinations of these young people, and we need somebody who's going to be able to work more intensively with them, to broker interviews at college, to try and get them sorted out, to spend time with the parents, to do intensive work with young people. So we have under our pupil premium transition package that kind of intensive support allied with very practical applications. You know, we'll take those young people to the interview, we'll get them sorted out, because we're aware that some young people are not going to be engaged by a one-to-one careers interview. It's not going to happen. So we do offer more practical application. And we're also very fortunate that a number of our staff are trained in life coaching, cognitive behavioural therapy, solution-focused approaches. So it really challenges those young people and uses just different techniques, really. I mentioned earlier about SEN packages. A special needs school will still need to buy impartial careers guidance, even though the local authority will provide the S139 assessment element. They don't provide impartial careers guidance. So you could come to us if you're a special school for a few days of careers advisor time, and we'd make sure that that person was equipped to work with special needs young people. In terms of the curriculum development area, if you were in a situation where you needed somebody to come in, look at your careers education scheme of work, look at your careers policy, if you did have Ofsted coming in and thinking, oh God, we never did take up that investment in careers, did we? Perhaps we should be working towards a quality mark. We do have highly experienced, qualified consultants who can come in and work with you on a daily rate. If you need somebody to sort out your library, or if you need somebody just to basically sit down and help you create a new scheme of work, we can get people in to support you on that. Equally, if you are thinking we need to capacity build our tutors so that they've got some basic one-to-one interview skills, because everybody's going to have to be supporting young people in terms of transition, we can come in and do those sorts of training days for you if that would be of use. And Prospects is a large provider of education resources as well, so we can help you on buying particular products, software, etc., etc. I've been given the 5 minutes, so I've probably talked far too long. Just a couple of points on the issue around data services. If you're thinking the whole thought of doing a destination survey is really, really onerous, you can come to an organisation such as ourselves to do that piece of work for you. We're highly experienced in doing it. We've been doing it for years. We can secure young people's September offers. We do lots of evening tracking. We do lots of evening phone calls. We community call young people's homes where we can't get hold of them. It is a considerable task. So if that's something that you felt you prefer to get somebody else to do for you, we are able to do that and put it into a destination measure report for you, for your governors and for DFE. And that's pretty much the summary of the reasons why you perhaps could look at Careers Advice Plus and go with Prospects if you felt that you've got X amount of money to spend. I think we can probably meet most budgets. And I think we've got a track record already of schools coming directly to us. So that's all I was going to say. We've got 5 minutes for questions. I'd say anything you haven't got, like the handouts or the booklets, are on stand 75, but I do have a load of handouts here if you'd like those at the end. So I'm able to take any questions you may have. There's a lady at the back and there's a gentleman here.
can we find a price list of the options? Where can we find a price list?
The price list would all be on stand 75. Yes, it looks like this. Just different white and pink blocks. It's all on stand 75. There's a gentleman who put his hand up here as well. Oh, same question, okay.
Judith, my question relates to the Education Act. My understanding is that careers education is no longer obligatory in schools, and I just wondered what your concerns about that are. And the other concern is, I'm rather surprised that you said, well, and I think you said this, that schools can appoint their own careers advisors, but they also have an obligation to bring in someone external. Doesn't that concern you, that the balance may not be right, or indeed those advisors are not seeing the pupils that really do need seeing?
Yeah, can I take your second question first? I think there's that whole issue of independence, impartiality is really vague still, and it's open to interpretation. I think it's very, very clear that you can't have a teacher to do it, but it is a little bit vague in terms of what else is constituted by somebody employed by the school. So I think currently some people believe, there's a school of thought, that that can include somebody who's a qualified level 6 advisor, but that still doesn't negate the need to go out and then procure independent support on top of that. But there are some people who say, no, it doesn't even mean that either. So that's my interpretation of it, which is shared by some. But others have an interpretation that no, you not even a careers advisor employed by the school would be impartial. So I think the jury's out. Sorry, what was the first part of the question? Yeah, I think that's a real concern. Because if it's not statutory, it's down to how well it is valued by the school. But I maintain that you can't have careers advice and guidance if you haven't got careers education, because you spend your entire time doing a careers education programme.
Just wanted to ask about the qualification for the level 6.
Yeah.
Can you just confirm what qualification it is, and if your understanding is that advisors need to be trained to level 6 or they can be working towards level 6?
Yeah. At the moment you've got a bit of a mishmash. You have some people who have got level 6 qualification because when they trained as careers advisors that was the qualification, it was a postgraduate route. And then you've got some people who've done an MVQ level 4. And so if you've done level 6 because you've got the postgraduate certificate and diploma, you're sort of level 6. But those that are level 4 are going to have to do some kind of bridging unit to get them to level 6. Now, we're not sure quite yet what they are, but yeah, there will be something available to get people to meet that gap. And I think there will be a register of professionals that schools could choose from that have got that level of qualification, but you will be able to work towards. Just not sure how, but yeah, you can.
The new register is going to be announced on the 1st of April.
Is it?
Yeah, so there will be a new professional register for the sector.
Yeah.
Hello. I work at schools liaison in a college and go into schools on a regular basis.
Right.
It is becoming increasingly difficult to get into academies and schools with sixth form because of their change in funding.
Right.
What do you think is going to happen in this situation? Because I do know of a school that has actually removed all the college and school prospectuses off the shelf because they want all their students to stay there. I think it's not unusual and it's of great concern, I believe, for the students, because we continually get students at 17 who have dropped out and don't even know what's available out there.
And I think what will happen is the already high rates of people dropping out at 17 will continue because they will have made the wrong course choice because nobody would have enabled them to have access. And young people do vote with their feet ultimately, don't they? So it really doesn't help anybody. Yeah, and I know that we still have a voice through Careers England to sort of send those sort of messages back, because what you've reported is not uncommon. And And there are lots of schools that are not just academies who will, I'm sure, ignore the need to have arrangements in place. So I would have hoped that those thematic inspections have real teeth, you know. Otherwise, I think in a couple of years' time we'll have young people who have made completely wrong choices on all sorts of wrong courses, probably dropping out, and, you know, we won't have people in full learning. I think it's inevitable.
Has your company got the credibility and clout to go to government to actually push this through inspection? That's what concerns me.
Yeah.
The young people that they
Yeah. I think you're right to be concerned. Okay.